Welcome, William. Super excited to have you here today. Thank you again. Just for the reference for the audience, I am sitting down on Zoom with Dr. William Kalatsky today to talk about something that we all deal with, but rarely understand, which is trauma. Why our body clings to pain, how emotions turn into physical symptoms, and what it actually takes to let go. A little introduction about this wonderful person. Dr. William Kelsey is the creator of Field of Consciousness Healing, a breakthrough method that clears trauma, emotional pain, and limiting beliefs by working with the energetic field that's not just around us, but part of who we are. His work helps those navigating anxiety, grief, and uncertainty to experience rapid and lasting transformation. He also supports entrepreneurs and high performance in releasing inner blocks and aligning with deeper clarity and success. William is the author of The Intuition Method, a practical guide to unlocking the mind's healing power, and the creator of Headaches Heal, a frequency-based method for migraine relief featured in a UK hospital-supported app for pregnant women and new mothers seeking drug-free alternatives, and many more amazing things, which you are also welcome to share a little bit. But before that, I have to start with a story. I'll let you take the mic, and you can do most of the talking. I don't mind, but I have to tell this story first, which is, to me, it was super fascinating. Obviously, the first time we met, I think, was at the Biohackers World Expo.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And but then what really stayed with me happened later at, I think it was at a Daybreaker party in the morning at Miami Ironside. And after dancing and all that, we were saying goodbye. And I remember you hugged me and you suddenly touched a spot on my back. And I literally, out of nowhere, and you have no idea about my history, we're new friends. Out of nowhere, you asked me if I ever struggled with eating disorders. And I was like, oh my God, right there. You did something on the spot, and I remember you first asked for permission, and you also warned me that I might experience some diarrhea later as my body processed it. And the crazy part is you were right. Incredible though, how you spotted it. And I think I was also open to letting go, and maybe it did. And that moment really made me realize how powerful this work of yours really is. And I think it's the perfect way to start this conversation.
Well, first, I'm going to connect to that and say, from our conversation, I already knew I could mention it to you at that time, right? I wouldn't just say that to somebody, right? It was based on everything else that we talked about and things like that. And I knew this was something that you would be okay with me saying or asking. And that's something that I've been doing for a long time. I don't consciously say it out loud to people. With my clients, though, of course, well, I'll notice things and I'll point things out. And it's all about patterns, resonance, frequency. Everybody has different tones. When I was practicing as a chiropractor a long time ago, I would touch people, and I had a lot of celebrity clients at the time, people in the fashion world. And one person came in, I remember I touched the back of his neck while he was seated, and I just felt this buzz go through my whole body. And it ends up that he had just come off of a night of partying. And so there was this tone in his system of things that were not healthy. And it was around that time when I just started really tuning into different frequencies and patterns people have. Just like you might look at somebody and recognize with your eyes that they drink a lot because maybe their face is swollen, right? Or something like that, like something inflammatory. Maybe you'll know someone ate a lot of sugar because they're looking swollen. Maybe you'll know, here's an easier one, somebody was in the sun a lot because they're sunburned, right? Like there are clues that we notice if we're aware. And if somebody's never seen somebody with sunburn before, they won't know what it means. After touching thousands of people, you start to find that there's specific feelings to different things. And so that's what happened when we hugged. I just said, well,
So interesting. And I know one of my favorite books as it relates to your work is, if let me know if I'm wrong. I think the title was The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel. And trauma is described as something the body literally holds onto,
yeah.
from food struggles to stubborn weight or just like feeling stuck. How does that unprocessed trauma actually affect our wellness goals? And I'm wondering, what's one way to begin releasing it? Can someone actually with trauma experience difficulty losing weight, for example, if that's one of their goals?
Well, I never read the book, The Body Keeps Score, but I hear a lot about it. And my experience is the body, different parts of the body don't actually hold trauma. The trauma resides on the body. Imagine trauma as a frequency. Just like there's a frequency when you hit a piano key, it's a certain frequency. The frequency does not live in that key when you hit it. When you hit the key, there's a resonance, there's a strumming of the string that creates that sound or that frequency. But it's tied to that frequency. The tension is that frequency of that sound. Emotional trauma or any emotions, good or bad, they're all tied to specific frequencies. And so the traumatic frequencies, the difficult frequencies are very dense. They're more like a bass. And when you have trauma, just like when you raise your hand in front of a mirror, there's a frequency that appears in the light that matches your hand in the mirror. There's always a matching frequency. And so in this case with trauma, when you have a traumatic experience, the matching frequency shows up immediately and it lives on you. It just resides on you. And one of the reasons that I believe it resides on us is because when we have a serious trauma, we're going to lose it. We're going to come apart mentally, emotionally, something like that. What happens is the trauma binds us. It holds us together so we don't fall apart. And that's part of healing. Just like if you broke your leg, you were also going to have a trauma that makes you not be able to walk. And if you walked anyway and you didn't have pain, what would happen? You would damage your leg even further. The pain is there to protect
Almost
you.
like a protection, you're saying, or almost
Right.
like a coping mechanism in certain cases.
Right. But then the next trauma is if you never release the first trauma, you're restricting your whole life. And it's that way. Your whole life, now you're suddenly afraid of something. Anytime you see this dog, you're afraid because a dog once bit you. And now your whole life is restricted because dogs create a fear response in you and you can't enjoy dogs. So you're missing not only are you feeling pain, but you're also missing the goodness of things. The trauma lives with you and it vibrates on you like it's stuck to you.
Because
like
it blocks something?
It just changes your resonance. Imagine I put a helmet on your head, a motorcycle helmet, and it muffles your ears and you don't take that helmet off. So anytime I talk to you, the sound is going to be muffled no matter what. It just lives on top of you and with you. And then I come along and say, hey, let me just take that helmet off of you. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know it was there. I didn't know that could come off. I thought it was part of me. And we take the helmet off and suddenly you're hearing clearly again. And that's what happens. It's not that the trauma lives in your body. It just engulfs you. It wraps you up. And what I discovered is we can clear it very easily.
But is it somehow related to the memory? Like trauma and memory, how do they work together?
It's related to the memory. But when we clear the frequency, you still have the memory, except there's no pain attached to it now. For instance, I worked with somebody who did something wrong. They hurt somebody's feelings. They did something and they really wanted to apologize, but they couldn't. They couldn't bring themselves to apologize. And I said, well, why don't we just clear that feeling of I can't apologize. I feel terrible what I did. I can't. We cleared the feeling. And then they said, oh, wow, why don't I just apologize? I can call them and apologize. I said, of course. But there was a feeling that restricted them from moving forward at that point until we cleared that feeling. And then it was, of course, common sense. And what we're doing is literally bringing you to this observer status that is so easy to where this is what I have to do. Or it's just a situation. It's not even a problem. Well, that memory was back then. It's not with me now. That's already what I experienced then. And that can just dissipate. That can just float away. And it's not me anymore.
What I'm hearing is, are you saying that somebody cling to that pain for years before letting it go? Is it because they're not aware of it or because they're not open to it or they just like avoid it?
It's none of those really. It's actually that they don't know it's there. They think it's who they are. They think it's just, this is me. I'm suffering. I feel grief. I feel
And
sadness.
we're comfortable with what we are familiar with. We don't like the unknown, correct?
Well, it comforts us. It's like a blanket. You pull it tight.
It's just what we know.
It's what we know, and we don't know there's an option. Don't know that somebody in 5 minutes can do something, and suddenly, where did my pain go? What just happened? It's almost like you're laying down and
I felt that.
that's what it's like. And some people will say to me, but don't I need my pain? I need to learn a lesson from the pain. Right? And I'm like, well, it's 20 years. The lesson, when do you want to learn this lesson?
Exactly.
How about you let it go and see if the lesson is you don't need to hold pain for that long. Now, I'm not saying there's not time we're going to learn something from it. There definitely are times for that. Most people, there was someone who lost their pet And I saw on Instagram and said, "Hey, do you want me to help you with that grief?" And she said, it was a friend of mine, and she said, "No, I want to feel this for a little while." And I said, "When you're ready, if you want to let it go a little quicker, you'll still love your pet, you'll still honor your pet, but you don't have to do it with pain, because we assume the pain shows love or feels something. And in some ways it does, but it doesn't have to hurt as much.
So we can grieve without the pain.
It's a different kind of making sense of things. The grief, when it passes, it's suddenly this, it's like a higher awareness. Just imagine you
Mm.
can shout and without the grief feel like, wow, I really miss you. Gosh, I love you. I wish you were still here. But without feeling like you're
Yeah.
being torn apart.
It's more like you're detaching from the pain and you're just connecting to those memories or that person or that pet with love. And you're just remembering the good moments only.
And the other side of it is the good feelings, right? Because with this work, we don't just clear the negative feelings, we install or create a guided meditation once you're empty inside, once the resonance is clear, once the string of the guitar has stopped vibrating a negative tone because we took the finger off the guitar string and now it becomes its true sound again. Then we do something to bring in the actual thoughts, feelings that you want. You're resonating with something new. Just like the saying, happiness is fleeting. Happiness is fleeting. Happiness emotionally, the resonance of the emotion is very light. Sad, all the darker emotions, I'll call them darker, they're very
Very
dense.
heavy.
They're heavy, they stick around. And the light ones, I believe, it's part of our evolution, part of the universe's evolution, because if happiness was dense and it stayed with us all the time, we wouldn't be finding new ways to keep growing our happiness. We wouldn't keep developing things to make the world better and to make us feel better. We'd become very stagnant if happiness always was here. I need to create something. I need to develop a method or figure out a method that releases tension so we can find happiness more easily. And something new shows up in the world that makes people's lives better. And that's the nature of the evolution. It's a stepping stone of, oh, this is better. People are better. Oh, people are better. And so it's not a sad thing that happiness is fleeting. It's actually beneficial for us as humans or as spiritual beings to elevate to the next level.
Interesting. So is that why like happiness never lasts? We just don't want it. Why do we chase it?
Want it.
And how could how could like chasing it actually be part of our evolution?
Imagine you have something that you really like, and when you get bored of it, let's say, or you can meditate, of course, find inner peace. You could be around people that make you happy, which is something we do, right? We do that because we love that resonance of happy. I'm going to be around people that make me feel happy. And jumping to, as empaths, all humans are empaths. And so we will feel people's negative emotions. And that's very obvious because if we go from a good mood to a bad mood, we notice it.
Mhm.
But when we're around those people that we like being around, we're also empaths. And we're feeling good because we're around people we like to be around, where they're
Right.
transmitting, receiving. So we don't think of it that way. And I want to mention that because empaths typically, I was just speaking at University of Miami and talking about how we think empaths is a victim, a mentality. Like, I can't go to this event as an empath. I'm going to feel too many people's feelings and I'm going to get exhausted. But it's the other side too. We also feel amazing as empaths because we're going to feel people's good feelings too. And so we look for reasons to be happy and we're going to find them or we're going to create them. And that's what I mean about evolution. I'm going to keep creating reasons that I can be happy, which is going to motivate me to keep discovering, to keep doing new things. If I was happy all the time, I could sit on my couch and do nothing and be happy.
In a way, we are addicted to pain, though, I feel. People love the challenge. You look at those people who love running marathons, and there's a need to be busy with something to challenge yourself. And I remember when I first started this healing journey, serenity was a very new feeling to me, and my body did not like that. It almost scared me to feel serene because I think it was probably because I was used to the pain and all that. But anyway, body always gives you signals through migraines, anxiety, even jaw tension. I know a lot of people do that. And so could we say that these are subconscious signals and the body is actually like speaking to us versus
Mhm.
like just overreacting?
Well, we could definitely look at it like that. The body is definitely, in a way, speaking to us or alerting us. I see it more like the body it's a processor in a lot of ways. And when the engine light in your car goes off, you don't say your car is speaking to you. It's just alerting you to something, but it's not really speaking to you. If you have a pain in your body's speaking to you, but it's really just alerting you. What do I have to pay attention to? When you, again, if I use the example of someone who breaks their leg, when someone breaks their leg, their body's not speaking to them. that they're hurting. It's alerting them that they're hurting, but it's not a conversation. Maybe it could be. All of the things that emotionally build up can definitely, or even physically, or even chemically, can all lead to the body's changing, of course, right? We know if we eat healthy, we get good results. If we eat bad food, or if we take drugs or things like that, certain drugs, we're going to have to pay for it. The body definitely speaks to us in different ways. When I was doing a lot of migraines, I don't do much migraines anymore. It's just, I really enjoy the trauma work so much more. It's frankly, the migraines are exactly this example where it's so much inner pressure that finally that engine light goes off. And the migraine is the engine light. The migraine is saying overwhelmed, and the engine light's not the problem. There's something under the hood that's the problem of the car. And it's the same thing with migraines. The migraine is not the problem. The migraine is the whistle of the kettle telling.
Yeah, it's like alarm of the voice.
Right. And that's why people have to then, let's say, go into a dark, quiet place for a long time. And any extra stimulation
Yeah.
overwhelm. It's like, how do I get to the quiet? And as I was saying, I don't do a lot of migraines anymore because I really find that emotional trauma work, which is what's underneath the migraines anyway.
Exactly.
For me, it's a lot more beautiful work and a lot more satisfying because I get to see people going from grief of losing a loved one, or someone who's extremely angry, or maybe someone whose business is not on track, and just clear those patterns and watch things change so quickly. While migraines, it's like sediment in the ground of pressurized emotions that need to get free. And
Mhm.
it's the results take longer,
Mhm.
basically.
As you just mentioned there, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of different cases from health to money to relationships. Trauma shows up everywhere. What do you think is one truth about trauma that you wish everyone finally understood? Are there any interesting, mind-blowing cases that you've seen and you would love people to hear about?
Well, I do a lot of group sessions in person, and I like doing them. I do them every couple weeks in Miami. I'm on my way to Colorado, New York, Medellin, Colombia. We're all going through the same things. How much we want to be shy about it and not share it, that's somebody's prerogative. With the work that I do, you don't need to talk about the problem. I don't need to know your secrets if they're shameful, if they're whatever they are. I just need you to close your eyes and be able to feel it. When you feel it, just like closing your eyes and hitting the piano key, a sound comes out. When you feel the feeling, I don't know exactly what the feeling is all of the time. Maybe not when you first close your eyes, often yes. But when you bring up that feeling, there's a new frequency, a new density that is around you in your field. And when we clear that field, it doesn't matter what it is that you are holding. It's a science to where consistently and repeatedly, I just clear that field and suddenly the pain is gone. So at these group sessions, one example is a woman who was depressed for about a year, medicated. She's about 70. Someone invited her to the group session, and she very straight faced, didn't not a lot of emotions showing. And she came up, and at the end of the session, she was smiling. She was talking to everybody. I was very surprised. The difference was so dramatic. I wasn't sure exactly how it would go because of the medication, because if it's shutting off emotions, but she was still able to feel the emotion so we could clear it. She came back to another one about 2 weeks later, and then I didn't hear from her again. And I found out from my event producer that when I asked about her, that she was on a cruise in the Mediterranean. And I said,
I
oh my,
love that.
I said, can you get me a testimonial from her while she's on the cruise? No, she sent a testimonial. And just the
You
other day,
restored life in her.
exactly. And the other day, I had another group session, and 3 people called me. One had lost her husband a few months ago. One was her daughter, her father, and the other one was somebody who just went through a divorce. And all of them struggling. And I said, how did you learn about the event? And they said, oh, it was from her, the woman who was on the cruise. And she said, you have to go. This is the guy who helped me. So I get to see so many beautiful changes so quickly.
I love that.
And I'll always call up the people who say they've got the worst trauma first to the front of the room, because I want them to be the example. Everyone can see this is how fast and dramatic this is. And then I'll work on the whole room at the same time. The protocol works for everyone. I just need to either focus my attention on the person I'm working on, or kind of open it up to the whole space.
So everything is interconnected and you open up a space and kind of like everything dissolves.
Kind of like that. It's not exactly like that, but it's kind of. I tested it in small groups first. I would say, okay, with 8 people, hey, normally what I'm doing is focusing on you, and because I can feel the changes happening in you, I know what's happening. Then when I started opening up to a group, I was trying to work on the whole room at once, and I couldn't, because it wasn't as personal. I couldn't feel the changes happening as easily. So I would say, look, let's do it like this. And if any of you don't feel anything different, or if you do feel something different, please let me know. And I kind of figured out from there how to grow it into a bigger and bigger group that I can work on at the same time. Because once I hit about 30 people in the group, there wasn't enough time for me to affect each person individually. I had to find a way to work on the whole space at the same time.
So there is something universal about it. What is it? What does it reveal about all of us, right? There's a truth behind it.
Yeah. Well, think about it like this. Imagine you were listening to a beautiful song, something that just really moved you, something that lit your heart up, relaxed your mind, and brought you to a place where you just felt so much love. And you're just going, God, I love this song. What is in this song? And then you put it on for the whole room, and everyone goes, my God, I love this song. The vibration is affecting everybody. And it's universal. We are a frequency. We're affected by frequency. Miss out on that because we see ourselves as so physical, and we are. But there are also codes that we run on. A healthy food, a blueberry with antioxidants, it's also a code. It's a certain amount of electrons and protons and neutrons in a specific sequence in the atoms. And that code comes into our body and says, oh, there's some extra electrons here. At least from this perspective, let me find some protons that are oxidizing and breaking your body down and attach to them and neutralize them. And the code finishes the formula, and we clear some oxidizers. We clear some things that rust ourselves from the inside out. And so we're all living in this formula that is in some ways very simple as we get closer
Thank
to
you.
yeah.
I actually just posted about it, and I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they were talking about the energy in foods and how these old ancient knowledge, food from the sun, they have the energy of the sun, right? Like sun-kissed fruits, etc. Now, when we look at them as sugar, or we put these labels on food, and then now obviously there's a trend in the US, especially to get as much protein as possible in your bodies. We forget that, and that protein comes with the energy from that animal. So I really believe that you receive it's more than just protein or carbs. Like, it's the energy, as you mentioned, is super interesting. That's why I feel amazing when I come to the Mediterranean. I go to the farmers markets, and anything I buy, it feels good in my body because they are all fed. They're all seasonal, and they're all fed by the sun. It just
Mhm.
it's the frequency. It just feels good in my body, you know?
Yeah. 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 Well, we live off sunlight, right? We have a huge fear of sunburn, things like that. But sunlight feeds us. Sunlight feeds the planet. It's the sun's not here. If we're not getting that frequency of light, things shut down. So we know the sun hits us, we get vitamin D, right? And we convert sunlight somehow in this amazing body of ours. It has these processes, just like if you put something into a food processor and it runs through the system and it comes out a different shape and form, and it's like, that's amazing. And the sun is doing the same thing. It's baking me, and it's hitting my shoulders, and it's hitting my traps, and next thing you know, I'm having more testosterone. It's like, wow, this is what a process. It's like I'm in this system that is so amazing, and none of it's by chance. That's the thing. I mean, it's all part of this massive formula that, if we see it that way, we're going to try to work with the formula. And when we understand, for instance, that going through a difficult situation there's also a relationship to this formula, like, okay, now you felt pain. Now you know not to do this again. Let's clear it. You don't have to hold that anymore. We can take that filter right off. And now you can be back to yourself with clarity. You already know you don't want to feel that pain again, so you're not going to do it again. But now you have clarity, and you can observe. Last night I worked on somebody who something happened at work, and he had to report it. There was potentially a troublesome situation. And now he's saying, I'm concerned that the person I reported on, and I don't know who that person is, but might come after me. Right. So now he's living in fear and a paranoid feeling of he has to look over his shoulder because, he did the right thing. And so I said, well, look, the fact is that's true. Somebody might come after you, but you don't have to feel the fear around it. You can just be aware. So let's just clear the fear. And we just clear the fear. And next thing he's going, oh, wow, wow. Why am I living in this fearful state? Why am I feeling like this whole feeling of shaking all the time? And then, okay, yeah, I could talk to the guy. Suddenly it takes you out of this zone of, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? And just puts you in this observer state. I consider it like you're playing chess from above, where you could see all the pieces on the board and you don't have to have an emotional attachment to it. You're like, oh, I see. It's a situation. It's not a problem.
How many sessions do people need to let
Mm.
go of that trauma?
It really depends what they want. If it's just for one trauma, it's usually one session. And if it's for,
Well, for those who don't really know what's happening.
well, somebody knows. Somebody comes in and they say, I'm sad. I don't know why I'm sad. I'm just sad for years. All I need you to do is know the feeling. so we can clear the feeling. It may be after the sadness clears, they say, you know what? Now I know why I was sad. I'm not sad anymore, but I was betrayed a long time ago by this, and it made me feel like uncared about.
It's
Well, but they're not sad anymore. That's
But
out
there
of
are
the
also people who are not. I think this level of awareness is still great, but there are also a group of people, and there's no shame or judgment around it, that they're not really either they're in denial or they're not really aware that it's trauma or they don't really know that it's easy to fix it, you know? So can you maybe just for those people who are listening, can you just list out some of these symptoms that people might be feeling or how it comes across in their life, say there's money blockage.
Yeah.
This
Well, when I started working with people around money and business, it started because they came to me for trauma, a different trauma. And now I see trauma much differently. I see trauma as really anything that's restricting us in our lives. If something is holding you back from getting what you want in your life, that's traumatic. It might not be today, but it's going to be in 5 years if nothing changes because you're still going to feel that same feeling and say, why didn't I do this? Or so any blockage. Now, if you want to get outside of the house, if you want to get outside the door, we need to open the door. And if we don't open the door, you're staying inside or you're going to have to break windows or find another way to get out. Once we open the door, you're going to see a lot of new things and there's going to be new things that show up for you. Question number one is somebody going to say, you know what? I've tried everything. Let me try this. Because those are most of the people that I see. Those are either direct referrals from someone who had great results or somebody who
What are
says,
some of the experiences that they overcome, or some of these like recurring life events that they're seeing?
okay, so in business, that's when I see a lot of recurring things, right? When it comes to an actual trauma, something that happened as a child or 20 years ago or 3 months ago, that's an instance in time. Something happened. You got scared, angry, fearful. Those clear, and there's not a recurring instance of those unless you're in, let's say, a troubled relationship and you keep going back to it, right? Oh, I feel better. Let me go back to it. Oh, we live together. Of course, I'm going back to it. There still needs to be mature decisions to be made on how to make things happen in your life that work better for you, but without the emotional attachment, let's say. So, but in the business world, that's when there's recurring things because you're consistently going to the next meeting or looking to close the next deal or whatever it is,
Under
just
earning, perhaps.
under exactly. It could be under earning, could be, where is that if I say to you right now, something very simple that I'll say to people who don't exactly know how they're feeling, and I'll say, well, is your life exactly as you want it to be? And if the answer is maybe not, well, that means there's patterns running that are limiting you, that are keeping you where you are. And how does it feel to know that? And when you really think about that, wow, I feel like I'm being sabotaged by myself. How are there parts of me in my subconscious that are holding me back? Really, they're holding you back because they're protecting you. They believe I'm going to keep you safe by keeping you within this boundary. So what we want to do is let's you feel that feeling of what it feels like to know that part of you is what's keeping you back. And that feels for most people not very good. And
Right.
once we feel that not very good feeling, we can clear that feeling. And that's the access point to let everything open up to where you say, oh, wow, yeah, now I feel like I'm not enough. Or now I feel like now I know what I want. Let me go after that. It's just like we're taking off these blinders and filters. So you
And you
suddenly,
can finally start moving in life. Are there any other points that you would like to mention before we close out? I feel like you're focused on trauma these days, and of course, you've been talking about how it feels when we finally get through it and heal. You said we make fast moves, and so anything that you would like to mention as it relates to trauma and trauma healing?
well, for me, I love seeing and being a part of people's transformations, right? You can imagine how fulfilling it is that people want to change and that it can happen so quickly. It's hard for me at the end of a group session when it's in person, when I'm thanking everyone for being there to not sort of like have a crack in my voice because I have so much gratitude for doing something and discovering something so, let's call it unusual, and yet so widely accepted at this point. And so I think I mentioned to you, I'm doing research now. I was invited to work with University of Miami to discover how this work works. Now, the reason I'm invited is because it works. And now it's about collecting the data to show what is the brain doing? What are the brain waves doing? What is the blood doing? What is the heart doing? What does the urine look like before and after a session? How do people transform so quickly from where they were to this new person? And so the doctors from university referred somebody to me the other day for a group session. And it was, I mean, if I read you the text message she sent me, it said, I couldn't sleep last night because I was thinking so much about the session. I don't understand what you did. I don't understand how this works. Finally, I fell asleep and I slept the whole night, which never happens. And I didn't cry on my way to work for the first time in as much time as I can remember. So if you can imagine, she's saying, I didn't cry on the way to work. It tells you she's crying on the way to work every day. And suddenly she's saying, I didn't. And so there's so much underneath that to unpack. Like what has been happening for this person that they're in such a state that they have to cry on the way to work and on the way home from work every day. And suddenly this change happens. So the changes are so beautiful and so fast. And there's a doctor I work with on the West Coast who refers his clients to me to help free them from the emotional stress as he's working with them with their health problems, their physical problems. Just the changes that we see, our emotions, our frequency keeps us tense. Someone who's always angry might get high blood pressure, right? It locks us into these patterns. And if we can say, okay, I'm going to see what it's like to let it go. I don't even know if it's going to work, but it's harmless. I'll meet some interesting people. That's in a group session. It's so extraordinary and so beautiful. And sometimes, I say to people, do you need more science or do you need more miracles? And it's true. What if there's a miracle waiting for you? And science is also studying it. But what if there's a miracle waiting for you if you do something just different than you normally do? And so, I
I
think I
love
would agree with that.
I have a question for those who are not in Miami, who are not where you are, basically. Is it possible to do this work online?
Yeah, I do 90% of my work online.
Okay, so you and I, we could be just doing that at the
We
moment.
can do it. Yes,
By
exactly.
the way,
We
you
can do
have
it
such
right now.
a interesting energy. Even when we're talking, I don't know, I feel something. You do
Me
have
too.
this healing energy.
It's one of my favorite topics. So if I'm talking about it, it probably comes out a little
Like
bit.
you move something in me. I don't know how to explain it, even by like just talking at the moment. I feel
So,
something is like shifting in me.
but well, I'm happy to hear that.
Obviously, since this is the no BS wellness, I just want to say that sometimes we put goals for ourselves and we love putting goals, especially when it's Christmas time, we set new goals and all that. And we focus too much on things that are not as important as what you just talked about. So I really hope that more people can come across your work and understand the importance of trauma removal in their lives. As the last words, what are some upcoming events or how can people reach you?
They can reach me. Fieldofconsciousness.com is my website. A short version of that will also take you there called Field, healthefield.com. And Instagram is William.Kalatsky, Kalatsky. A lot of great videos on Instagram talking about how this work works, about intuition, about creating your life. And let's see, I'm in Miami pretty often. I live here. So once to twice a month, we're doing group sessions live in person. I'm in Colorado on September 20th. I don't have the New York date yet, but that'll be next month. I'll be back in Colombia in October. And in Colombia, I'm
Wow.
starting to
Busy
conscious.
schedule.
Yeah, I'll be at Faina for the Ultimate Wellness Conference. That's September 28th. And at the Eden Rock Nobu Hotel on November 15th, we'll be doing a really large.
Adding to that. So,
Okay, that one will be like 1,500 people I'll be working on at the
wow.
same time. So it's going to be beautiful. And it's a lot like the churches in Colombia that I'll be working with, where somebody I worked with down there is setting things up with the pastors and the priests so I can work on people in church after they're done with their with prayer services. So I'm
Oh, wow.
super
Super
like
interesting.
I mean I know time is short, so I won't go into it, but it's just such a
That's so
blessing. Yeah,
interesting.
super. A lot of pain. There's a lot of pain that people need help with. And I got to work on the right person in Colombia that said, I know a lot of people who need this.
Blessings to you. That's incredible. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for
Really
having
nice hearing from you.
me
Thank
too.
you.
Nice to see you.